All right, free radicals, welcome back. I'm Dave, and this is the Radical Independent. Thank you for subscribing, for watching. Subscriptions are down, revenue is down, but, we soldier on. Those of you who can help, I would ask you to do so. Again, I will provide a link to my PayPal email address. I got to talk about this. It's a weird thing that I have to say here. There are progressives who now seem to be, I would call them neo-progressives at this point. Again, I know a couple of people on Twitter said that was a bogus term that I made up and so forth, and it's not real. And if you're putting Tom Steyer as your third favorite presidential candidate ahead of Andrew Yang, or anybody, I guess, with who is left in the field. But, wow, this pretty much makes what I said back in June and July very relevant. And it also shows how narrow-minded some are in the progressive movement. This guy here epitomizes the 1%. I'm sorry, he's not going to be looking out for the best interests of people. Now, last night, just as a side note here, he was Googled a lot because people are upset about his tie. Okay, apparently he only has one tie. There it is, and that's why all of the mindless chatter regarding Tom Steyer. So any publicity, as they say, is good publicity. Reading a little bit of this article here, billionaire and presidential candidate Tom Steyer saw a boost in search traffic on Google during this year's first Democratic presidential debate on Tuesday night, partly thanks to his tie. There you go. And on a progressive channel, they were talking about how Tom Steyer is becoming very likable, that he talks about climate change incessantly, that he's donated a lot of his money. He's a philanthropist. By the way, a lot of people describe George Soros as a philanthropist. A lot of people describe Michael Bloomberg as a philanthropist. Look, they got so much money that stuff falls out of their pockets, and that's, the stuff that goes to charity. Plus, if they're running for president, they're going to do an analysis. They're going to say, how much money did you give to charity, Tom? You made $1.6 billion. How much did you give to charity? The fact that I'm even having this conversation shows you that the progressive movement has, in some places, kind of lost their mind. All right? It's Bernie, Tulsi, or nobody. Now, if Bernie doesn't make it, Tulsi doesn't make it, and you're going to start to say, hey, well, at least we got Tom Steyer. He's not so bad. Is Tom Steyer better than Elizabeth Warren? I don't know. I don't care. It's neither. It's if Steyer or Warren somehow became the nominee, it's Green Party time. Seriously. I mean, I don't get what these. Well, Dave, that's dumb because the infrastructure right now isn't set up for the party like a Green Party or Libertarian or whatever. Guess what? It's time to start setting up the infrastructure. All right, and I don't care how little time you have. And see, this stuff should have all started happening in 2016, but nobody picked that up, or 2017 after the election. So let's comment on why Tom Steyer has got my attention today, rather than talking about what great dialogue happened between Tulsi Gabbard and Dennis Kucinich. They had a little sit-down where they were talking about endless war, and it was fascinating. It was mind-blowing. It was informative. It moved the ball down the field. It informed citizens who were uninformed, and it completely contradicts what happens at the Democratic debate, which, again, we knew that Warren and Bernie were going to have an exchange. Apparently there was a heated exchange that happened maybe after, where Bernie is like, I don't know why you're saying this. I never said that a woman couldn't be the president. I mean, Bernie has been saying a woman should be president or could be president since the 1980s. I mean, whether you like Sanders or not, all right, he is wildly consistent. All right, I know that's not a term, but I mean he is. He's I should say consistently consistent. How's that? And if you're not a fan of Bernie, I get it, but that's not a reason to not be a fan of Bernie. He's been saying the same stuff for 40 years, okay? So good on him for saying that. He was way ahead of the curve on things like, healthcare is a human right, that kind of thing. Where I honestly was told for years that I shouldn't think that, because it's it's collectivism and so forth, and that's what they do in these backward countries like Sweden, where people are fairly satisfied, by the way, with their quality of life. So anyway, let's get back to Steyer. I want to cover this and then finish this video so it doesn't get too lengthy. But I want to illustrate the problem with progressives and neo-progressives, a term I coined. The reason I coined the term is because there are a lot of progressives who live in an echo chamber just like conservatives. Just like, whatever your little niche is. See, I've decided that, in high school I was voted most dependable because I hung out with burnouts, jocks, preps, and nerds, okay? And everybody, I gravitated from group to group because I didn't want to live in an echo chamber, even back then. I didn't realize it until now. I was a fairly independent-minded person, and I found that all four of those groups, some may be appealing to you, some may not be, but I found that there were decent people in all those places. Why did I go off on that tangent? Because the echo chamber can insulate you and make you think stuff that you wouldn't ever think if you were just out in the world observing how normal people behave. Now, in the case of Tom Steyer, these people are actually warming up to Steyer. He's my number 3. Why? Because he talks about climate change, and he puts his money where his mouth is, and he could be a great advocate for somebody like a Bernie Sanders. Or he could be the neoliberal choice and overtake Bernie Sanders. Look, Joe Biden, it's low-hanging fruit to be able to beat Joe Biden in this primary. Steyer is positioned to do so. Tom Steyer is also positioned to not only overtake Joe Biden if things go wrong, but he's got deep pockets where he can advertise the crap out of himself and get to the nomination. And say if Biden does well enough where it's between him and Bernie or whoever, and we'd like to hope Tulsi too, but just being real here, this guy would be the deciding vote. He would throw his delegates over to Joe Biden. And he'd probably want to roll. Maybe he'd want to be the vice president. I don't know. Biden and Steyer has a nice ring to it, right? Ugh. And these people are saying, well, it's because he's been so outspoken on climate change. Now let's get to this, unpack this a little, and then wrap this up. Yeah, he is an advocate. He cares about the climate. He cares about the earth. He puts his money where his mouth is. The problem is he's a neoliberal. His foreign policy would line up with Joe Biden. It would line up with Donald Trump. It might even line up with Dick Cheney. I don't know. He's neoliberal. So, as I've said in other videos, if you don't care about endless war, with the passion that Tulsi Gabbard and Dennis Kucinich care, with that kind of passion, if you don't share that passion, then you really don't care about climate change. And that's why you can't trust Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer is nobody's number 3. You know whose number 3 he is? He's Wall Street's number 3. Okay? Behind Biden and Bloomberg and then Steyer. So, if you're watching a progressive channel and they're telling you, oh, I like the way he talks and he gives his money to orphanages. You know who's considered, again, an advocate for people that are underprivileged? George Soros. All right? And Mike Bloomberg. All right? They're looked at as philanthropists. hey, I don't need this kind of philanthropy, okay? I'm just letting you all know. I called this in June. This is getting scarier by the day. This shows you how backward things are. The fact that some progressives can get duped into thinking that this guy is somebody that they should maybe take a look at, or a second look, or make him their number 3, shows me that the echo chamber is well insulated. And folks, we need an independent way. I shouldn't use third way. I've said third way. People say third way is kind of like a centrist thing. Yeah, I've heard about it, but that's not the third way I'm talking about. I'm talking about going around this two-party system. And whether it's the Green Party, I think there is a shot that somebody might jump in to the presidential race late in the game. Jesse Ventura. Maybe. And that would be a game changer, especially if Bernie gets, gypped again. The whole thing gets rigged, and you get a Tom Steyer. You get a Tom Steyer. He's got no name ID going up against Donald Trump. I just don't understand these people. I don't understand what they're trying to do. Especially the progressives who are, propping this guy up and saying, yeah, he might be one of us. We just don't know. Hey guys, I think I know. I think he's not one of you. So that's my video. Again, beware of the Tom Steyer. I've been saying it for months. I don't change that opinion. His worldview, including, his hedge fund manager background. Really? This is how you're going to go up against the 1%? By nominating one of the 1%. I'd rather have some truck driver from the Midwest be nominated for president. At least they could speak to the working class with some level of authority and authenticity. This guy, I ain't buying it. I ain't buying the tie, and I ain't buying the spiel. All right. I'm done. Thanks for watching. See you soon.